What is going on, everyone? I'm back with another video. Today is a video request from Daniel Payne, and he asked me how I take apart, clean, and put back together my knives. And also he asked me how to sharpen my knives too, but I do actually have a separate video on my channel that demonstrates me using the Spyderco Sharp Maker, and that is predominantly how I sharpen all my knives. So today's video is just about how to take down a knife, clean it out, re-oil, and put it back together. Now, before I begin, I want to say that there's all sorts of different knives out there, and all of them can be taken apart, pretty much similar, but there are some variables in there. For example, this one is bolstered, which means that the bolsters and the scales usually have to be taken off first, and then you have liners underneath. And in this case, depending on, or even regardless whether it has spacers or it has standoffs or whatnot, you know, there's extra screws that pull those out as well in most cases. On frame locks, there's pretty much nothing really to these. You just take these out, and because it's just two slabs of material, they just usually come apart. So there's really no extra parts to take out. On other knives, such as the 301 here, which is assisted, you want to be very careful because usually there's a plate inside that holds together, especially in Kershaw's, that holds together an actual spring. You don't want to lose a spring. You don't want it shooting off. Now, when I say spring, it's not really a spring. It's actually a torsion bar. So make sure you take the torsion bar out. Another knife, it all depends on what knife you're actually taking apart, and that'll actually kind of tell you how hard it is to put back together, especially for backlocks. Backlocks has a very powerful spring, usually right here, and it kind of holds the lock upwards. So you know it creates the tension and spring for the lock to operate. So again, on these type of knives, be very careful when you take them apart. Memorize where all the parts go, and kind of don't just throw them out there. Just set them down in a certain way that you will remember them, because when you put them back together, you're gonna have to go reverse of the way you do it. So anyway, so today's test subject is the Fantoni HB01. This knife is pretty much due for cleaning and oiling anyways, so I thought maybe I use it for this demonstration. Taking apart their knives for the first time, you may consider using some painter's tape. This stuff is it just sticks just enough to hold on, but it doesn't like leave sticky residues everywhere, as long as you don't leave it on for a very long time. And what this does is you can take some of this stuff, like just for example, I can take some of this stuff and I can actually just fold it over the blade like this, and what it does is that it'll prevent you from cutting yourself. Okay, so now this is great for people who want to use this. It is an option. For me personally, I don't use the tape just because I'm so used to taking apart my knives and whatnot, but just I throw it in there to show you guys if you do want to protect yourself from cutting yourself by accident, definitely use the painter's tape. Okay, so first off, you want the knife to be open. I know this sounds kind of strange, but because you have, especially on a liner lock or a frame lock, when you have it closed, this liner lock's pushing over, and while you're taking the knife apart, especially when you start taking apart the a pivot area, it starts pushing the blade up. So that's why before you take the pivot out, I always open the knife all the way. That way you can relieve the tension. But I'd usually just leave it out like this. So so let's go ahead and start. Let's see. I have a T10 and a T15, I believe, is what needs to be, what the tools I need to take this apart. Oh, and before I begin, quick thank you to Jeff Juice. He actually gave me a whole set of these WeHa Torx tools for my birthday. So thanks a lot, Jeff. I have them in the package right now, or the carrying pouch with all the other ones in here. So first off, you're gonna, every screw you can find, you're just gonna go and just take it out, obviously. Okay, so now we get here to the flatheads, Phillips screws here, sorry. Get my terminology correct here. So we're going to take all these out. You notice how I'm placing the screws separately so I don't, get them mixed up, and I know exactly where they all go. Alright, whoops. So it kind of is falling apart on me here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump the barrel spacers out of there. And set these off to the side next to the screws where they're connected to. Now, again, this is the part where you want to have the knife open, because again, you got a liner lock pressing against the blade. Now I'm going to come in with my T15, and I'll just take the bolster off. And this is why I like to use a cloth, especially if you're on like a wooden table or something, some surface, hard surface. You don't want to scratch the bolster. You can put it on this nice soft material here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently rock a little bit to get the scale off. Sometimes they are stuck. Don't lose these, of course. Obviously, these are the These are the washers, and you definitely want to locate them. Sometimes they're stuck on the blade, sometimes they're stuck on the frame itself. So just kind of break that off here, and there he is. Here's the first first washer. And then here, when I get to here, I just press down on the lock, and then that way the blade just kind of slides right off. And oops, see, notice how there should be a washer here, but it's gone. So I'm assuming, yep, here it is on this side. Now, one thing to caution is usually on the locking side, there is a smaller washer. The reason being is that the washer has to be able to clear the actual lock itself. So you notice the big size difference here. So make sure you put the smaller washer on the locking side for a frame lock or a liner lock, okay? On like back locks, probably the washers are going to be the same size, obviously, because there's no locking in the way. So we'll put that off to the side for a second. So for the most part, I mean, you can just use tissue. I know there's like multiple ways of doing this. I know I'm probably gonna get screamed at by a lot of people from the way I clean my knives, but you know what? it works for me all the time. And I just take either a bathroom tissue, or actually I'd probably prefer to use something tougher, like napkins like here, so it doesn't tear on some of the sharp edges. And I basically soak up all the grease and oil that's been kind of built up on here. I make sure I get the lock face, the detent ball, everything. And you just go through and you clean up all this. See all that gunk on there? Yeah, just clean it all off. Once you got everything clean, now it's time to oil it up. So what I'm going to use some of this high slip grease again. This is up to you, whatever you want to use. So I'm going to get a little bit out, and I'm going to apply it with the toothpick here. I can get some of this stuff out. And you know, when it comes to grease, a little bit goes a long way. So that's why I'm going to apply a little bit to the napkin I have off to the side here. And this is what I'm going to pull from when I apply my grease. There you go. All right, put the cap back on and we can start. So first thing I always do is I always start with the locking side. I'll set the locking side down first, and because I want to actually, because this side is just going to be on the table first, so let's get the, see which side is. Now remember, on this particular knife, when I took it apart, the smaller washer was on the locking side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to apply a very, very thin coating. Now you don't need a lot of grease, so you just put a little dab on there. You kind of just move it around and just get a nice coating on it. Doesn't have to take this. I'm going to put it face down on the pivot itself. I'm just going to spin it. So when I do this, when I go and spin it, it's basically just going to spread the grease or the oil, whatever you use, just automatically for you. And then afterwards, I can just take it up, take it out, or take it off. I mean, there you go. And so now on this side, there should be a little bit of grease on this side. And then all you gotta do is take the non-greasy side and just put it back down. All right, and then I'll take a little bit more of the grease, and now I'm just gonna apply it on the other side. Okay, so I finished greasing the side up. So the one thing I'm going to do, and this is just what I do, is I put 1 drop of this dry lubricant and protectant on the washer itself. Just 1 drop's all I need. And then I just kind of let it work itself in there. Now this next bit, now on certain knives there's actually stop pins. This one doesn't actually have a stop pin. It actually just uses the thumb studs to stop it. The stop pin will usually go here, so make sure you line that up before you put the blade back on. So what I do is I'll just press down on the lock bar. I'll just pop the blade on there, and I'll open it fully and let it lock up. That way the blade doesn't kind of shift around on you while you're working on it. And again, this is why the painter's tape is kind of nice, is that when you already have the blade covered up, you don't really have to worry about cutting yourself while you're working with the knife. All right. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with this. This one's a slightly bigger pivot, so I'm gonna need a little bit more. Turn it over so the dry side is down on the already oiled blade, and then it's already oiled on the top. Even things out. All right, now we're ready to put it back together. Now this knife in particular is a little bit harder because I have the barrel spacers put back in. So I'm just going to put the frame back on top, and again, you do everything backwards. So then I'm going to gently lift it up and kind of hold everything together here. Oops. I'm going to put this barrel spacer right here. And for me, personally, for me, it's easier if I just do these spacers one at a time. And what I do is I'm just going to tighten the first one down. But I don't have to tighten all the way down, though. I'm just going to tighten it, you know, to a point where it doesn't just flop around on me. And I'm going to gently push the, oops, talk about gently. I'm just going to gently move the other spacer in there. I'm going to take the screwdriver. I'm just going to kind of position it where I can see that it lines up, just like so. I'm going to take the next screw and I'm just going to pop it on in there and tighten this down. Alright, and then I'm going to take the last spacer and just do the same thing here. Now I can go ahead and just tighten it back a little bit more. Now these screws are underneath the scales. I don't really care if they're completely like overly tight or not. They just have to be tight. That's about it, because it's holding it all together. Alright, in this case what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop one of these screws on this side just to keep the the bolster from kind of spinning around on me and scratching up the frame. There we go. There you go. Alright, so we're almost done here. Pop the other bolster on, line it up, and I'm going to half tighten the pivot here. Now you want to be very, very careful you don't strip these, obviously. So just kind of backtrack it a little bit, and then until it sinks down, then just start tightening it. So this is not tight all the way yet. So this is just to, because you can always adjust the tensions of the, or the tightness of the screws to get the perfect kind of lockup or perfect kind of action that you require on your knife. You know, it's just, you just got to be careful you don't start losing parts. And I have done that before, believe me. And there we are. So let's see here, check the centering on this. Actually, the centering on this is pretty damn good this time. It's microfiber, and I'm just going to wipe down. Sometimes when I'm feeling lazy, what I do is I'll just take some a spray like this. I'll spray it down. This is just eyeglass cleaner, but what it does is it does a really good job of just removing the grease right off the blade. And let's see. So you can tell this blade's a lot shinier now after I did that. See that? It's just a lot more clean, obviously. I'm going to do the same thing to the bolsters, actually, since I got this on camera right now. I'm just going to kind of just run my fingers and wipe down all the grease off of there. And I'm just going to take the microfiber cloth and just do the same thing, go around it, get this all cleaned up. Oops. And then this last part is actually kind of optional for a lot of you. Now, depending on what you use your knife for. For example, if you use this knife for food prep, you may want to just kind of oil the blade and clean it with some, what is it, some mineral oil or something like that. Just if you do eat with it. I'm personally not going to be using this knife for food prep at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of Ren wax on there, and this will just keep it nice and clean. And I'm gonna just basically apply Ren wax to the bolsters as well. And Ren wax is really cool. It smells really bad, but it's a really cool product. And I've just got a little microfiber cloth here. All I'm gonna do is just rub my fingers. Actually, there's probably enough in the, yeah, there's enough on the cap. You don't need a lot. You just need a little bit. Just kind of put a little bit on your cloth here. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna rub it on, just like this. And you're just gonna buff it dry. So just like this, and I'm going to do the other side really quick so it doesn't take a lot. And the last thing to do is just take a dry piece of the cloth and go back in there and just basically buff it to a shine. And you know, and what happens is this will protect the blade and the parts, and you know, just keep your knife looking overall in a very, very excellent condition. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish this up, but you guys get the general idea how I do this now. Oops. And so hopefully, if you guys have any questions, comments, or you know, you got any better suggestions, you know, feel free to leave them below. I take good constructive criticism. So again, everybody does this differently, and I truly believe that, and everybody has their own way of doing it. This is just my way. All right. So I want to say thank you to everybody for watching, and to Daniel Payne, if you got any more questions, let me know. Other than that, take care, have a great day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.